run up on you and talk about the trending topics on Twitter and how we need to fight them to a person who doesn't have a smartphone. These are real realities that exist in our country, fighting different battles. And again, people articulating struggle and giving voice, to the voiceless when the voiceless didn't ask. You can't come into my space and tell me, and you can't go on the news and tell the world what I need if you didn't ask me first. You might go in there advocating for shoes, and I might have 200 pairs of shoes, and I just need a coat. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't really do these things, and people do these things all the time. And sadly, I was almost in a position to be one of those people, and to an old friend stop me. Can I talk about that? Yeah. This is very important. This is very, very important. There's a lot of conversations going around about not giving unsolicited advice. It's just a real thing. This guy, he didn't give me advice. They should probably talk about unsolicited venting too. You know what I mean? That's like the other side of it. Like, I feel like if you vent to me, then that's like the price you kind of have to pay. Anyway, but this is how I got into that space. So you can look at me, you can probably tell that I'm at this phase of my life, I'm not the best basketball player. However, I used to be pretty solid. Like, on a 1 to 10, I used to be in the strong 6. It's just not bad. It means you can't beat the guys who are almost good enough to go to the NBA, but you're better than like the guys who are like accountants and like camp counselors. You're better than them. Better than every counselor in America. So anyway, I'm on the court. All the old guys would play like 8 o'clock in the morning, and the younger guys would start to come to the court around 10. So the old guys play like 1 or 2 long games, and then we get out the way because these young kids, they'll dunk on us, and it's out of control. Older guys know this. Like give the young kids that space. They have energy and they can run on concrete and not have puffy knees when they get done. So I'm on the court and I'm trying to get out of the way. So this dude named Doug is on the other side of the gate. He's calling me. This is like biggest dude in East Baltimore, like NFL-sized person, but like in regular people's clothes. You know what I'm saying? Some people are just too big. Like he's like 6'6" tall and 6'6" wide. Like if you put like a T-shirt on a Suburban truck. Like, it's a big guy. So he's like, yo, let me talk to you. So I'm like, all right, back. So I'm walking out the basketball court and grabbing a bottle of water and grabbing a little chicken wing on the grill and then walking down the block. So we walk down the block, and at the time, I wrote that article that I was just telling Nico about, the 2 Pulls for Pop Culture article, and it got me a whole lot of local attention. They did a big profile on me in the local newspaper, and this I'm talking about. I'm not. You can probably hear my accent. I'm not from out here. So they did a big profile on me in the local newspaper, and everybody in my project's grandma had that article laminated, and then they like hung it up on the wall, like even above their own children. You know what I'm saying? So he was telling me, I'm proud of you, man. Mom's had the picture hanging up in the crib. I'm happy for you, right? And I'm like, oh, that's all good, bro. It's, it ain't nothing, whatever. Modesty. So let's get to the matter at hand, right? So we're walking down the block, Diggs in his pocket, he pulls out a folded up piece of paper. So I said, okay, so I take the paper out, I unfold it, I'm looking at it, glancing at it, and I'm like, okay, it's a letter from his daughter. She's saying she loves him, and she's saying that she's so happy that ever since he came home from jail, he's been there for her and giving her all this love. And then I stop in the middle because why am I reading a letter from your daughter? Like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, yo, this is like none of my business. This is a long time ago, but I knew what boundaries was, right? I'm like, yo, I'm not reading this, man. This is like your daughter saying she loves you and all that, man. I could care less about this. It's the Tyler Perry movie. So he's like, no, read the letter aloud. So I look at it, and then it clicked. I said, okay, he can't read. There's no other reason for him to show me that letter and ask me to read it aloud. He can't read. So the first thing that flashed in my mind is, all of these people are congratulating me for that profile, that article that was in the newspaper, but that's not my work. That's somebody writing about me. They're hanging up a picture of this article throughout their homes, but that's not my work. It's about my work. So you don't even, and you're in that work. So I'm writing about us and what's happening in the neighborhood, and you don't even know what I'm doing. That's a problem. That is crazy. So I said, yo, I'm not going to read the letter out aloud, right? But I'll teach you how to read so you can read it yourself. So remember I told you, he's 6'6" tall, 6'6" wide. So he's like, read that letter. So I read the letter. I told you, never pretended to be the toughest guy in the world. I'm not, not trying to fight the person who's just like, 478 pounds. I read the letter, and I gave it to him. It was a beautiful letter. His daughter told him how amazing he's been since he got out of jail. All the love, she appreciates the relationship they're building, and she wanted him to write back. And I'm like, bro, I can help you with this. We don't gotta tell nobody. It's between us. We can make it happen. He took the letter, put it in his pocket, kept going down the street, and we never visited that conversation again. However, I left transformed from that moment because I realized that what is the point of me being the person on the inside yelling out? Even though I was frustrated at people on the outside looking in and trying to critique us, why should I have to explain us to the people outside? People outside don't even matter. I should be writing for the people who inhabit this space with me because that's what I love, that's what I spend my time around, that's what I care about the most. So that is who I work for, and that is who I should be serving. That is what it's about. So I switched the way I wrote everything. I went from writing in a dense academic tone to writing books that are sometimes on the third, fourth grade reading level because of the millions of people in America that are illiterate, and then the greater number who can't read past the fifth grade reading level, and the fact that literacy and these struggles cost our country $2.2 trillion a year, right? So I'm trying to lock in with the people who aren't getting these skills because I know that when I wasn't a reader, I wasn't able to think critically. And not being able to think critically put me in a bad position for many parts of my life in London in that hospital. So I know it can literally save lives. And I just wanted to do everything in my power to be a part of that.
That's what's up. Thank you. The first book that I read from you was The B-Side, and I just love that book so much because I was an educator, or I am an educator, and it's really hard to get young folks to get into a book, let alone, read it and comprehend it and write about it and get them inspired. But the B-Side, it was like easy. It just clicked, and I think it was a lot because the stories were a little shorter, and it was about many different subjects and aspects of, living in East Baltimore, living in certain neighborhoods, living in certain communities where there are all these type of issues that we have to deal with from all different, points of view, right? And so it was really easy for my kids to get into it. I think we're here to talk about how storytelling can really help with, dealing with trauma and with healing. And, the cook-up, I know is one of your memoirs, and I just wanted you to maybe expand on how, storytelling can be therapeutic.
I think at the end of the day, and sometimes, and we can connect on this and flesh it out even further because I think it is important. Sometimes you go through things that are really tough, right? That are really heavy, and you might not be able to share those feelings or that experience with another person. Has anyone ever felt like that? Sometimes, you might not even have the words to be able to express that to another person. And I found through literature sometimes, not only has it let me know that somebody in the world identifies with what I'm going through, but it gives me the language and the power to be able to articulate it. That is a powerful thing. It's something that a lot of us take for granted, I'm sure you heard the saying, oh, I lost the words, right? It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. I always tell this story because it's like it's the most clear way for me to explain it. But I remember having a friend that was having a rough day. He was having a rough day. And I know he was having a rough day because I've never seen a person do this in real life. He was pacing back and forth. Like, I see people pace on TV. He was literally pacing back and forth. This way, that way, this way, this way. I pulled over on him. Yo, Jimmy, why are you pacing back and forth, right? So he comes over to the car, and I don't like when I'm driving, right, or if I'm parked and somebody's trying to talk to me, I don't like people leaning over to the window to talk. I don't like it. I always get out of the car. It's my first instinct. I don't know why. I just don't like it. So I got out of the car and I said, "What's up?" And he's like, "Yo, I'm at work, man. My boss yelled at me, and my girl yelled at me, and my landlord, what I'm saying? My landlord and my girl, and you know what I mean?" And I'm like, yo, that's wow. I know exactly what he means. He's even more frustrated because he can't articulate. He didn't have the words to flush out what was happening and going on with him, and that was sending him spiraling in multiple different directions. And that is directly connected to what we're talking about today. He didn't have the words to express his pain or tell his story. And that's where we at, right? That's where we at. So, kind of what you said with that book. I had to. I had to make that book accessible because, like me, when I was coming up, I wasn't reading anything. And I was proud. I was proud of it, right? What? A book? I don't read. Where's my trophy? Like I was doing something special. And too many of us have that experience. And it's for a couple of reasons. One, a lot of our schools and a lot of places they don't have the resources to get literature. They have old dated books where the only person who might even resemble anything close to you, racial or in an ethnic way, is like a slave, right? So you got textbooks from 1950 telling stories from the 1820s, or you might not have any books at all, and you might come from a family that never got the opportunity to understand how powerful reading and words, what that can do and how transformative it is, and then you inherit that. So, it's the collection of these things. A lot of people don't know this, but the more words you know, the further you go in life. It's a study, it's proven. Also, people who grow up with books in their homes tend to go further than people who don't, even if no one reads them. Even if no one reads them, you still actually have the potential to do more with your life. That is a scary thing. But then when you think about it, you say, you know what? That is why it was a long period in this country where Black people were not allowed to read. It's directly connected to the historical development of this country. If I can keep you dumb, keep you divided, I can control you, the end. And we've seen that for a really, 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 really long time. So I try my best. A lot of authors that I work with, we try to, get together as a collective and make sure we're mass creating content that allows everyone to play, everyone to see themselves. And we have it's a big uphill battle to go. But just because we might not see the change we want to see in our lifetime doesn't make us exempt from doing the work.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we're going to keep pushing forward in your career. You come out with We Speak for Ourselves, which I think we just watched a clip from that. And then I think recently you just linked up with Carmelo Anthony, right, to write his story. So can you tell us a little bit about what it's like being with the NBA superstar and chilling with Carmelo Anthony? And
you get a lot of free stuff. Perk of the job is like the free stuff. This country is such a weird place because if you need certain things, you know, a lot of times agencies and places, it can become difficult. If you don't need things, you walk down the street, people want to give them to you. Oh, take my shirt. Oh, take my hat. Oh, take all the money in my pocket. What? But I think it was a fun project for me because when Carmelo first reached out to me, he reached out to me before his team reached out to me. His team reached out to me and they had this vision of talking about this illustrious basketball journey. And he said, no, I don't want to really talk about that. That's why I'm reaching out to you. And I said, what do you want to talk about? He's like, depression. I'm like, yo, I'm not depressed. Like, this makes you call me, like, you know, but no, like, but not depression in a way of, not depression, you know, in how we think about what's happening in the world now, but the depression you grow up having as a poor person who feels like they don't have anyone to talk to, anywhere to go. How do you deal with that? And how can we create the language and the necessary devices needed so that young people will understand that they're not alone? How can we do that? And for us to do that, me and Melo got into some fights because to be honest and to be vulnerable at that level, you gotta go where it's dark, and you gotta go where it's scary, and you gotta show yourself. And it's not always easy, especially you gotta think about the life of like an NBA star. By the time he turned like maybe 16 or 17 years old, most of the people in the world already knew that his life is kind of pretty much already gonna be rare, right? You're already 8 foot tall with this amazing talent, and we know, you know, the kind of salaries that come with that. So imagine being a person that's in their mid-30s or almost 40 years old, but everyone has been telling you yes since you was 16 or 17. Nobody's telling you no. And then you meet me, and I'm telling you that, okay, let's talk about the pain and the hurt. And you might not be ready to go there. You don't have to go there because people always tell you yes. And I didn't say yes. I said no to everything except for what he asked for, and we stuck to it. And we told a story that was transformational and that helped a whole lot of people see themselves and how they treated people, which was more important. You know, a lot of times we think about what we go through, but we don't really think about the role we play when we may be hurting someone else. And a lot of times it's not intentional. The intentions don't really matter. It's how you make that other person feel. So we got to think about the role we play. He was able to do that, and it worked. It was a fun project. It was pretty good. That led me to getting like beat over the head with ghostwriting jobs because everybody wants a book, and I told myself I wasn't going to really do any, but I did another book for an NBA player that I can't say, but he's a Hall of Famer, and it's nothing like the Melo book. His book it might not be the funnest read. It's completely square. He didn't want to go deep. He wanted to go, I was a kid, I went to church, I ate my vegetables, I did my homework, I mowed my lawn, I brushed my teeth, flossed 3 times a day, and that got me into the NBA.
Well, we know you, so now you're getting ghostwriting jobs, but I think a lot of people in here want to know, what is it like writing for HBO? And maybe you could talk a little bit about what that show is about on HBO right now.
Writing for HBO it's amazing. It's like the nicest group of people I ever met in my life. Like, I think they all like going to work every day. Anybody, anybody work? Raise your hand, work. Keep your hand up if you have a bunch of annoying people at your job. Okay, nobody? You guys love? Okay. HBO people are so not like, everybody says like please and thank you and good morning and like, it's like cake and bagels and donuts, like it's ridiculous, like it's such nice people. Now the show is not a nice show. Very, it's, the funny thing is, see, when I was coming up, we didn't say things like triggering. You know what I mean? Like, we didn't say that, but this is like what they say in the meetings. We like with executives, like, he's about to talk to me. Just want to let you know, it's triggering. Right? It makes me just want to come to the front and be like, boom, right? Scare somebody. But, so there's a group of police officers in Baltimore City. They're called the Gun Trace Task Force. And they're led by a guy named Wayne Jenkins. These guys committed overtime fraud that cost the city millions of dollars, were caught up in misconduct settlements that cost the city more millions of dollars, and every day they went to work, they robbed drug dealers, they drive citizens who would never think about touching a drug, they would dress up like mailmen and rob people, they caused all types of car accidents. They actually robbed a stripper for her proceeds after she got done dancing for like whole shift. I don't know what whole stripper shift is. I guess it's from like 5 to 2 a.m.
And wasn't she a dwarf? She was a dwarf.
She was a little person. They did so much. It's ridiculous. Like, and the hardest part for this story was convincing executives that, okay, you may see law enforcement one way, which is cool, but this is like the lens I've seen them my whole life, and I'm not gonna argue with how you see them, not gonna argue with you, but please don't argue with me. And then I got like 3,500 pages of court records to prove it. So the stories are wild. One of the cops, he tried to date a woman, and she said no, so he took her beer, pulled it out the mud, and smacked her with a cup. Another cop who was searching for drugs, in a car, and he broke a guy's arm. Another one of the guys, her name's Lillian Parker, don't take my word, Google it. She was a cafeteria worker selling church raffle tickets. He body slammed her. He body slammed the elderly woman selling church raffle tickets because he thought the raffle tickets were like to help get people heroin. And the city paid for all of their sins. And for years they robbed and exploited and took advantage of people. And the show was about their downfall. I really, really wanted 10 episodes. We only got 6, but in those 6 episodes, viewers will see, and this was like one of my it was like a bunch of us working on a project. It was like 4 or 5 of us in the writer's room. 5 of us in the writer's room for the 6 episodes. But for me, my biggest contribution, or the biggest thing I wanted to show the world was, well, not the world, people who have HBO and HBO Max. The biggest thing I wanted people to show the world, HBO viewers, and people that have HBO Max, and people who let people hold their HBO Max login. What I was trying to show them is that you can be a terrible police officer and actually be rewarded for it. Even more rewarded from one who just comes to work and like clocks in and goes home. Like you get rewarded more if you lock up people. And it's a very simple thing to understand. I think we kind of made it clear in the show, but like, let's just say if, that's probably, it wouldn't happen, I had a felony. But, let's just say if I was a cop, right? And Nico was a cop, right? Say he's a homicide detective, he goes to work, he works the murder, it takes him 6 months to interview people, find spent bullets, run them through ballistics, talk to families, build a relationship with the prosecutor to figure out everything he got to do to lock up this person who did this murder. This is a significant amount of work, right? And you don't get overtime for that because it's not attached to any stats. You're not taking care of quality of life crimes or whatever. You are investigating something that takes a long time. And let's just say I'm a cop who locks up 40 people a month, right? He locks up one guy in 6 months. I lock up 40 people a month. And what they don't talk about is how my 40 arrests are. I saw somebody peeing in an alley. I saw somebody riding their bike on the sidewalk. I saw some kids jaywalking. I saw somebody with an open container, right? But you're locking all these people up, and every time you lock a person up, you get to take them in and process them, so you get overtime for that. After you get the overtime from taking them into central booking, or I don't know what you call it here, but central booking and processing them, you also get an extra fee for going to court. So every time you lock somebody up, you know, the overtime for processing them, and then the court fee for coming to court. So you turn your whatever $50,000 salary into like $90,000 just by locking people up, and you get to walk in the office and say, "I locked up 40 people last month. What did you do?" And so incentivized policing has been a way to almost, what's the word I'm looking for? Create generational wealth for terrible people. they took their job and they doubled their salaries just by locking people up. And I just wanted to show that because I think that, I don't think a television show has ever showed that perspective and that side. And now that I got that off, I don't think I ever want to work on a cop show again. I'm just not into it. We got so many death threats, it's just ridiculous. Like, you hate police, you hate America, we're gonna kill you, we're gonna kill you. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, you know, the way my iPhone's set up, I don't have like the space to hold that. You know what I mean? I need like send that to the cloud.
Well, you know, let's give a round of applause for this. So we're going to get to questions in just a second, but I do also want to just say that Dee has a new book out right now called Blackboard Smile, and I just wanted to know if you could just give us maybe a 1-minute synopsis of what that book is about, and then we'll go to the questions after this.
Yeah, cool. So I spend a lot of time really letting you guys know I'm not the toughest person in the world, just a regular guy, a regular person from a regular city with a regular life. And I wrote that book because for most of my life, like many men, I was forced to be a liar, to act like I was this larger-than-life personality that was bulletproof and that could always win at whatever I did, and it's just not a true thing. I'm not bulletproof because I was shot. I don't always win because I lost sometimes. And I think that part of that, you know, the masculinity piece that a lot of us subscribe to is that we have to be these invincible people who don't have feelings, who aren't compassionate, who are never vulnerable, and as a result, it's making a lot of us weak. We're weak because we're not being our true selves. We're not fully opening up, and we're not allowing ourselves to love the people around us the way they need to be loved. And we're not allowing ourselves to receive love the way we deserve to receive love. And it's not helping, it's hurting. So Blackboard Smile is a memoir of moments, and it talks about how I was raised to be a man, the problems with it, the things that I've buried coming up, and how to process those things and talk about them. So hopefully other people could talk about them too, and we can get to this space where we don't have to be, what's the term, the scientific term? It's entry-level narcissists is what a lot of people are walking around, an entry-level narcissists with their views and their ways on how they see the world and how they treat people. And it's like we can beat that, we can move beyond that.
Great, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to you guys. So we're going to go into other questions.
You need to read it yet? Come on, man. I'm really copy, man. Come on, man. You lagging.
The folks who want it, just let us know. I got copies coming in.
I think we have a young lady in the back here, and then we'll go to Nate, and then we'll go to the young man with the
Can you stand up for me, the folks in the back?
I just want to know the name of the show, so I can watch the show.
Hi, I'm Raquel, and I'm with Vegas and Power, but, you know, you really inspired me here today, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us, and, you know, I'm looking forward to the new book, and I'd like to watch the show, so can you tell us the name of the show, please?
Sure. So there's a documentary and there's a television show. I wrote and worked on both of them. The The documentary, and they're both on HBO. The documentary is called The Slow Hustle. And the show is called We Own This City. And if you guys like The Wire, it's made by all the same people. I'm just the only new person.
Hi, I was just wanting to know what was your favorite Sister Soldier book?
Coldest one ever. Still, I read all of them. The coldest one ever. The first one, not the second one. First coldest one ever.
Yeah, mine is the Midnight one.
Oh, no, Midnight was fine. Midnight one was fine. I also think it's that attachment because it just opened my mind up. Like, you know.
What, how did you like get to where you're at like right now, like moving from where you was to now?
That's a great question, and that's something that I just would like to say to the whole group is that there's no final destination. I'm still growing, still a work in process. The things that helped me change my life, reading was a major thing. The second thing was the ability to understand the problems I've caused, how I've hurt people, at times where I had the opportunity to be a good person and I wasn't, and being able to be vocal about that and to talk about that always allows me to move forward as a person and be better for business. So the main thing is reading, self-reflection, and then constantly working towards bettering yourself. If I wasn't writing for HBO, I wouldn't care. If I wasn't writing these books, I would be doing something meaningful and impactful. And that's just a result of owning my own problems and being vocal and talking about ways I've hurt people and then making amends and helping other people work in their situations is like the major thing. If you do that and you find that balance within yourself, you'll be happy with the person who you are and you'll constantly excel in whatever you do.
Hi, I'm wondering, I'm very curious about what it was like to transition from being a writer in a traditional sense to being a writer in television writer, because it seems like there's a lot more, appetite for content from people who are not traditionally television writers in a way that there wasn't maybe like 5 or 10 years ago. So could you talk a little bit about that transition and how that worked with your existing process and just what that was like? Thank you.
That's a great observation because the reason why I got those 2 HBO gigs was because I was a journalist. I actually wasn't really looking to get into television. I worked on a movie and I thought the movie was terrible. And I thought the movie was terrible because of the collaborative process. There was so many, there was some good people, but for every good person, there was 50 ridiculously goofy, people who shouldn't be allowed to make movies, right? So I'm like, it's no win for me in this. So when I got that opportunity, I knew some of those people already. I knew the Wire team already because they used to come to my book events that I would have in Baltimore all the time. So I already knew them. And I already had a respect for their work. What I will say is, when I write these books, it's just a one-on-one fight between me and my editor, and I win the fight because 80 to 90% of what I want in the book is in there, and then the editor might get 10 to 20%, so I kind of win the fight. In television, you're collaborating with so many people. So I fought in the writer's room and I got a little win, right? I won, but I needed to win. But then they're okay, now that you're done fighting with us, now you're gonna go fight the executive producers. So now I'm fighting them, and I feel like I'm still standing. And after I fight them, I gotta go fight the lawyers from HBO. So I fought them, and they kind of won a lot of. Lawyers are tough, but I think I'm good. You're not good because you get the director comes in and they want to change this and that and this and that, and so you fight with the director. But the director we had, he was such a cool guy that he just got done directing King Richard right before he came to Baltimore to shoot with us, and he was already in work mode, so he was in collaborative mode, and he didn't have too much space. But then I still had to fight him, and then after fighting him. Then you gotta fight the actors who you spend all the time writing these scripts and they just wanna I'm just gonna go off the top and I'm running out of trouble no you're not. No, you're not. So the amount of people you gotta collaborate with is different, but lucky for me, you know how some little kids, they get like a report card and it says like, oh, he's or she's good with teamwork? Yeah, I'm the teamwork kid, so it doesn't bother me as much as the kid who doesn't share their toys.
I just want to commend you, bro, for what you're doing, because I have a problem with what I write and what I speak, because I got stuff that I can't talk about, and that's the line what you was talking about that I want you to speak more. How do you know to be genuine? You have to tell everything, right? How do you like get on that line to where you're not telling, like you're not lying, but you're authentic. The truth is truth, right? But you can't tell all truth. But you gotta be genuine. So how do you, that's the whole thing with me releasing my book, is that a lot of stuff I can't.
That's the best question. That's like one of the
Can I
best
just
questions.
say, as you get ready to answer that, the one thing I loved about the front page of the Blackboard Smile was that you were in the page, it says something like, characters or stories may have been, right, so that to protect the guilty and the innocent.
Yeah, that's real. Yeah, that's right. You know, and it's a great question. So the first thing I learned as a journalist is you have to figure out the balance between protecting your subject and telling the truth. And what does that look like? It's very difficult writing, but it's necessary. Now with a book, I will say this: with a book, your publishing company, the people putting the book out will not, I repeat, they will not let you go to prison. You can't sell a book, you know, you gotta be out there in the world to be able to make sure you're knocking books off. But what I would say is that so there's so many ways I approach this topic. One, I have to figure out how to deliver my emotional truth in situations that can endanger myself or another person. So if me and you have went out in the world and did something together, and you're my brother, you know, I'm not gonna be like, you know, his name's Nico, you know, he's tall, he has some hands on, like, I'm not gonna do that, but I'm gonna talk about how I participated in certain things that left me in a space feeling empty and cold. That certain things is the part that I'm gonna leave out. However, I can talk about a relationship. I can talk about an event. I can talk about a certain time period. I can talk about culturally what was happening. But when you get down to incriminating details, you know, it's not necessary for emotional truth. Because if somebody asks you about this conversation right now, if we ask like anybody in this room about this conversation right now, guess what's gonna happen? Everybody's gonna say something different. If we ask, how does your sandwich taste? And 5 people had the tuna, 5 people want to say they like something. I like the bread. I like the chips. Oh, it was too salty. Oh, it was perfect. Like, so the facts are important, but what's more important is how you felt. How you felt and how are those feelings gonna connect with the people who are reading you and what they need to take away from what you're trying to do. When I first started, I used to get edited like crazy, but I learned something that helped me through it, which was 10% of my truth in the space I was in was more real than like anything that's ever been published. And am I gonna deprive, you know, the people who I wanna talk to of that because I'm fighting with an editor? Or am I gonna try to convey that emotional truth in a way that is gonna deliver somebody who made the same bad decisions that I made? And I put it on that. And that has allowed me to be able to do it. But publishing company not gonna let you get locked up. They want you home. They want you home.
Thanks, D. I just want to say, really appreciate you coming out here and giving us your time. I think we should make one more round of applause for D. Watkins. Thank you for your intellect, your motivation, your education.
You should come sit like right here, let Stephanie take a picture so you can post it on your.
Okay, come on.
And then we got one more panel that's gonna speak, and then you all will be done, but we got, hopefully Dee will stay around for the next 30, 40 minutes, because his book, if you haven't already got it, the B-side is in the back, maybe you can sign it for folks if he's.
Yeah, I'm right here.
And then we'll figure out I'll figure out the Blackboard Smile, we'll figure that out. What'd you say? Is Siobhan in the picture?
You are. Get closer. All right.
Give Dee and Nico a hand. Give Nico a hand last week. I was going to ask Miss Veronica Shepherd, Joanna Hernandez, and John Henry to come up. Really just in the spirit of storytelling and using strategies to heal, I asked each of them to share a little bit because they each do it in a different kind of way and maybe for different reasons, which I'll let them share out. But I just thought it was interesting because Dee is sharing his story, and he does it in this formal way that he's able to like make money off of, right? And other folks do it in a way to just really begin the healing process or to begin community. So I wanted, as we kind of close out the day, I asked each of them to come and talk about their healing process, the importance of storytelling, all of the things. And so I want to be really clear because Nico's going to help me out because I don't know everybody's name. So I'm still trying not to be the person that traumatizes folks and calls you out and then you be like afraid you're going to get called out. But Nico, where you at, Nico?
Right here.
Who is this young man, right? Well, you tell me your name. What's your name? Marcos. I want you to give Marcos, like you see he's like up in the front, like by himself, paying attention. Like give him a hand. Like that's what's up. I came in down for a little bit of bonus. You already did?
I remember him.
Yeah.
I just met him yesterday. He's just
He's been like on fire for me today. Like that's twice I've seen him in the right place, right time, right attitude. I appreciate that. I really do. Thank you for that. And even though I know you like a senior fellow, I appreciate your energy and your positivity. So I'm gonna call Sarah to make sure she does something for you too. Just always know, like people are watching. And I always say this because what I did appreciate about Kenneth, I don't know, Kenneth, are you still in here? He had to leave early. What I appreciated about Kenneth this morning is that he heard Dr. Wade say that she was doing neuroscience. And he's like, that's what I want to do. And he went up and he spoke to her afterward. Networked, built relationships. Because this is the question I always ask folks. Like the number one way to begin health and healing is to be able to take care of yourself, right? Self-care. And unfortunately, in the society we live in, self-care requires that you have money. And typically, unless you were born into money, in order to get money, you have to have a job. And LinkedIn is so big these days, you know why? Because that is the newest way to network and connect with people in order to get a job. Relationships are important for getting a job. So all of that, like when you show up in spaces and places, think about how you show up and how people see you and how you want them to see you. Because I will say, like I spent the majority, and I still, which probably all of you will agree after I say it, I spent the majority of my life being considered, like when you walk into a room, like, oh, she's so mean, she's so, that I live with that. But I also get to be known as she takes work very seriously. She thinks about quality and that she's going to do the best. So even people who don't like me, they work with me. You know why? Because they know I'm going to do a good job. They know I'm going to do my best on the show. So you may not like me, but you like my work. And so I have been fortunate to have a job ever since I graduated from high school. I live a good life. I'm very grateful. And half the rooms I walk into, they probably wish I would walk out, but guess what? They work with me. So I'm just saying, as we go through this, we all carry our trauma. I told you all earlier today, like how do we process, how do we do that? Everybody has their story. I've asked them to all share a little bit before we get ready to go. But I just want you to keep thinking about like how we show up in spaces, how we show up, how we want to be seen, how we want to be remembered, and how is it that you want somebody to support and help you, right? Because all of that, sometimes we are not we're struggling and we need to ask for help and we don't know how to. And if we start off on the wrong foot, we may not get the help we need. So I just wanted to, I wanted to start with this group because I felt like with Joanna, like she has been advocating and fighting for folks and asking for the help, not just that she needs, but that her family needs. John Henry has this, and I keep forgetting that his name is John. His full name is John Henry, but I thought his first name was John Henry. But John, or Jean, is, he has a program called Both Sides of the Conversation, where he tries to provide space for people to be able to tell their stories and share it. And then Veronica Shepherd, although she would not say that, I call her the preacher because she always got like a story to tell, but it's all about healing, right? She comes to that. I will tell you this, one time I was at like a really, really, really bad space and place in my life, and I was struggling, I was getting ready to get up and go to work, and I was like, I'm having like a really hard time. It wasn't even 8 o'clock in the morning. And it was like 7 or something like that. And I had just been, you know, I grew up very religious and I had just been in this really like vulnerable space. And I was like, God, I just really need somebody, I just need help right now. And honest to God, 5 minutes later, Veronica called me and said, oh, I need to pray for you. And I was like, what? Not pushing beliefs, not doing anything, but it was just like, wow, I just said I need somebody to I'm having a moment, and she called me like right in that moment. And so that idea of words and story and like being there for folks, I was just like, wow, I don't know what it is. You call it what you wanted in your own belief system, but for me at that point in time, that was what I needed. So I just think both of them, all of them, have the ability to use words, to use story, and to really think about like how we help heal each other. So thank you all for being here. Veronica, do you want to start us out, and then we'll go to Joanna, and then actually I would go, okay, Veronica, Joanna, and Jean.
So how much time I got?
Not that much.
All right, well, good afternoon, and thank you, Dr. Davis, for this invite. I come from the space that everyone's life is a story. All of you have a story. You all have a beginning and whatever got you to where you are right now sitting in this room. And that story is going to have a lot to do with how you engage with other people. My story, I don't have enough time to tell. I'm a native of San Francisco, was born and raised here in the Bayview Hunters Point community. My dad was the 3rd Black mini driver in San Francisco, and my mom worked at the shipyard during the war. I have a long history in this city, specifically with the Black African American community, because they started in the Western Addition and then moved to the Bayview where they could afford to buy a home. When we moved there, and as I grew up, it was mostly Italians. It changed as more and more Blacks came to San Francisco to work and find a place from the South and the struggles. The values that we were taught, I don't even see a lot of them anymore, Cheryl, where we all looked after each other. Everybody watched everybody's kids. If I got in trouble downtown and the neighbor saw it, the neighbor could discipline me, and then I knew I had a whooping waiting for me when I got home. We cared about each other. We valued each other's growth. If somebody didn't have enough rice or beans or food, my mama would send me down the street with a bag. And then I would wait there to bring something back to my house. It was called community. That was part of my upbringing. Today, that is embedded in me. We have to help each other. We gotta look out for each other. We gotta care about each other. The world is a heavy place right now. So when I think about the stories, one that comes up for me just off the top of my head is not knowing who I was. I grew up in a home where my father thought at 18 we had to get out. Whether you knew what you knew or didn't. You didn't have to have a career, a degree, or nothing. In his mind, he had done his job. Y'all gotta go. I had 5 other brothers and sisters. So I left home lost, confused, uncertain, no direction, and had no idea who I was as a young Black girl. And if you don't know who you are, you don't know what to be. You don't even know who to be. You don't even know how to show up because you're just trying to figure out how to survive. That was my life for many years. Marriage, I had 4 children, uncertain, not knowing, but I knew how to survive. And over the years, I learned that I am somebody. And it took other people to come and validate that in my life. I went back to college in my 30s, only because a family member said, why don't you go and get a degree? And I went, in what? To be what? To do what? Why is that even important? I got mouths to feed and a husband. And she said, because you have the capacity. And when I started college, I had a 1.8 GPA. I didn't even know what that meant. I said, what does that mean? He said, you have a D average. And I was like, what? Wait, what? I'm smart. I know how to hustle. I could get whatever I could. I was smart. And he said, we don't know if we're going to let you in, Veronica. Maybe you should go to junior college. This was at San Jose State University. And I said, sir, I don't need to go to junior college. You either give me a chance and I can do it, and if I can't, I'll withdraw. The day I started San Jose State University, I was homeless with my children. I was living with my brother. He got arrested and put in jail, and his landlord refused to let me stay in that apartment, even though I was going to pay her extra. So we had to move into a homeless shelter. And it was memories I'll never forget. And I went to school, and I took my children to school, and I made myself push myself farther than I ever could think or imagine. And at the end of the first semester, I had a 3.0 GPA. It changed my life. Today, I'm pursuing a doctorate degree. Today. I never thought I could do the things I'm doing today. Back then, it was all about survival. What I encourage you all to think about is the stories of your life right now. How you got here. Where do you want to go? And to think bigger than you can ever ask or imagine. Because there is a place for you. Because when all of us on this stage aren't here, we're going to be looking for y'all. We're going to need y'all to come up and stand in our places and hold the spaces of the adults that are in this room to carry the torch. We need you. So my story is one of never giving up. Even when I was down, I said, I ain't gonna stay down here, I'm gonna keep going. I'll never stop. But what I do want to leave you with is, don't give up on you. Because you're amazing people. And we need you. We're not the smartest people in the room either. But we know that we have to leave a legacy. And that legacy is all of you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Trina Hernandez, and let's see. I'm still dealing with my own healing right now. I'll take it back to bring you to where I'm at now. I became a mother at 15 years old. When my parents found out I was pregnant, I became kind of like the black sheep of the family. I came from a very Catholic family, and they were like, oh no, you can't be pregnant. And mind you, my mother had just found out she was pregnant, so we were 20 days apart in our pregnancy. So my parents decided to send me away to a convent with nuns called the Daughters of Charity at St. Elizabeth's. Yes, they have those here in San Francisco, right there on 100 Masonic Street. So I lived there for 2 years during my whole pregnancy. While I was living there, I was dating someone who I thought was cool, fine. All the girls wanted him. He was the man on the block. I'm born and raised in San Francisco Mission District. So he was the one to be with. And one time, before I got to the group home, obviously before I got to the group home, one decision to have sex got me pregnant. I got pregnant the first time I had sex. So that experience to me was very traumatizing. I never wanted to do that again, because here I am, pregnant now. After being in a relationship with him, it became very abusive. At 16 years old, it was a really, really bad abusive relationship. I never thought that someone at 16 could be in a domestic violence relationship. I thought that was for older women. I didn't think that a young girl like myself, when he was bringing me down and telling me I was no good and I was no this and no that I can be in that situation. So I started to believe everything he would say. After going through all the stuff that I was going through with him, my parents still didn't know that I was going through that. Till one day, I had to really just tell my Mom, those are not fights. The black eyes are not fights. The scratches are not fights. He's been hitting me. So my mom got in her, she had those old school Volkswagen vans with a pink one. I'll never forget. She went to 1842 Sunnydale, pick up my uncles and my cousins, and we drove to Guerrero, and all my cousins got out, and it was all he wrote. I never seen the man again. We broke up after that. Let's just say that. But then I got stuck raising this child. And at that time, I was 16 with a kid, I didn't know what to do with him. I was forced to nurse him because he was allergic to Similac, so I would be on 14 missions nursing a baby, and all these older women would be looking at me wrong, like I was doing something wrong. I started to figure out ways to make money. So I started boosting, I started selling dope, I started going in and out of jail myself. My mom had to take care of my baby. And I just started to create the same generation and the same trauma that his father was going through to him. And I felt that I was doing that to him. So I finally started to get my life on track. I feel like I'm the product of what community programs can do to save someone. And I went to my community and said, I need help. So I started to get back on track. I started to work in my community, get back and working with young women. I started a support group called Young Queens on the Rise back in the day at Reseda Center. I started to give back, and I started to give my all into my community and working nights. I was doing street out intervention services. At the same time, I had met my husband, who we now have been together 27 years. He's been raising my baby. I started to give to my community, but I started to see that with my trauma, I forgot the one thing that was at home, which was my kids. My son ended up catching a case. My son, who's now 30 years old, but we're gonna be 30. He actually is facing a life sentence right now. So when Ms. Davis talked about continue to fight for her family, that's what I'm doing today. Because I have to break the cycle of generational incarceration. That's my goal. My son has a son, and I call him the community son. His name is Noah, and I say his name very proudly because Noah's everyone's responsibility. Noah's your responsibility, because he's going to be looking up to young people like yourselves. So my goal is to make sure that Noah never walks in the doors that his mother and father, his grandmother and his father walked through, and his father. I need to break the cycle of generational incarceration. Yes. And I say all this to say that there's more than Instagram, there's more than Twitter, there's more than Snapchat. There's more to life than that. Think of yourselves now in your life, because one decision, 15 seconds could get you 15 to life. Just like that. So I come to you and I plead to you as a woman, as a mother, as a service provider, to think of your lives and take advantage of the elders that are in your life, your mentors, your school, the internships and the opportunities that you got. Because people are sitting in jail right now that don't have that opportunity. Mothers are at home crying like me on my knees every night, begging for my baby to come home. So I share that to say I haven't shared in a long time, but I share with all
love and respect, and I pray for all of you, and I hope that, you know, whatever path you end up, right, that you end up in, that you make the right decisions. So, thank you.
My name is John Henry, the director of both sides of the conversation. After listening to these two powerful ladies, I'm like, whew, pretty deep stuff. But happy to be here with the young people. I'm very big on young people. You know, we created this platform to change the narrative from our voices. And when I mean our voices and young voices, our community voices, when I grew up, it was always the media would come and change the narrative and say something totally different than what's going on in the community. And I wanted our people to have a space to come talk about the things that impact them and to create a space for healing. Because with healing, I believe through communication it can happen. Anytime you go to therapy, anytime you go see a doctor, and you're dealing with any kind of trauma, the first thing they say is get it off your chest, right? So it's like to heal, you have to get it off your chest. Whatever's bothering you, whatever's going on, whatever's impacting you, you have to get it off your chest. So creating this space was an opportunity for folks to get things off their chest that were impacting them and to show vulnerability to our community. I grew up in Baby Hunters Point as well. My entire life in D10. I've watched it change, I've watched it grow, I've watched the good, the bad, the ugly. But to be able to live through that and understand both sides of that experience is just like powerful. And I know a lot of our young folks are here and they have to go through experiences. And I think through mentorship and guiding is the way. I also mentor youth, which she's talking about is very real incarceration at San Francisco Juvenile Hall. You know, 25 years up there working with young folks who made the wrong decisions, some folks who got into gangs, some folks who just out with the wrong people. And I think when we have an opportunity for the young people, it's always to let them speak. You know, one of the things that I've learned is like, I want to hear from the young people, let them speak. Because too many times you all have the power, you all have the voices, but a lot of times the elders won't let y'all speak and y'all have a lot of the answers. And as I'm scanning through the room, I just remember, you know, coming to events like this when I was young and people would come and talk about life experiences and different things and we had to make choices. When I came up, I didn't make all the right decisions and choices. You know, I went through the peer pressure. I went through that teenage phase where I made bad choices, hanging out in the street, hanging with the wrong people, was very terrible to my community. And one of the things that I wanted to do was so many people stood up for me and helped my life and my trajectory of where I was at to where I was going. I had to give back. It's like when people pour into you, you have to pour it back. I'm looking at Jermaine over there. Y'all probably know Jermaine. Okay, he was one of my mentors when I was in school. Jermaine could test, I was a handful. I see my sister Siobhan back there. You know, watch me develop and grow. I was a young parent. You know, I had my daughter when I was 17 years old. My daughter 25 years old now, and I have a 6-year-old granddaughter. So time flies. I see Raquel back there from the community. So, you know, these people that's here, mentorship is so important. And the storytelling about what people been through and their experiences and how to open up, because everybody in here is going to relate to something, because it's something about growing up in our community when we deal with the economical issues, when we deal with the health disparities, when we deal with the violence in the community, where we grow up, there's somebody in that community that's going to be able to relate something that you've been through. And I think, you know, telling your story, telling your truth is always very important and powerful. And I heard a brother say, you know, certain things I don't want to say, but when I grew up in a real strict religious background, but it was always like on Sundays that testimony, right? People coming up, standing up, talking about what's going on with them. And it helped people when it was talking about if there was a death in the family or a relationship issue or a health issue, right? And it was like that awakening to get us, you know, conscious on it. And I think it is very important for us to have mentors, to have these stories told in our community so that we can relate. We put out a number of topics, we bring people on and talk about stuff, and just for people to see other people say what took place with them or whatever traumas that they're dealing with, to have other people who look like them and been through that lived experience, it really just helped them grow and be comfortable in space. You know, when we talk about healing, it's like coming anew, right? And we don't want to hold on to these things that's continue to hold us down or bring us fear or anxiety or depression. We have to move our community forward. And I believe, like, you know, these conversations, You know, and thanks to Director Davis for always being intentional with our young folks in education and making sure that the information gets out to the community is very powerful. And that's what we're trying to do, just continue to take that lead, to have those conversations and begin that healing process in our community because it is needed. You see the stuff that's going on in the news. You know, so many mental health things are impacting our young folks. You know, just coming out of this pandemic is just one thing, right? Some of you guys are going to college or going to high school. Different things are changing, right? And then in each person's home, there's different things that impact them. And it's all about how do we move forward, right? We don't want to be stuck because as we get stuck, we fall back into those depression, we fall into those things, and then we lock ourselves into a place where we can't overcome and come out. So, you know, for me, storytelling is everything. Like the brother D was up here, I didn't go to journalism school, right? I just knew what was going on, and I said, I want to do something to help my community. You know, both sides of the conversation was created during this pandemic, and just seeing some of the things that I needed to see back in the community, because most of my work was done behind the walls in the juvenile facilities. But once we weren't able to go in there because of the pandemic and coming back to the community, just seeing the disparities and the issues that our community was dealing with, I was like, I have to do something, and that's really like leadership, right? Not really having a business plan, not really understanding, you know, what needed to be done, but knowing that I needed to do something. And I think that's where we all come in here, even as young people, before I end, just want to empower you all. You can do something. I hear a lot of times young folks saying, oh, we can't do nothing. We're not old. They just tell us what to do. But believe me, things in this country has been changed because of the voices of young people. And we know that you all deal with a lot. And that's why we continue to try to open up space because a lot of young folks complain that y'all don't have a way, y'all don't have a platform, y'all don't have a panel to talk about the things that bother you all. And then how do we listen as adults to support you? So that's what we're doing. And I'm just happy to be here with you all. And thank you, Director Davis, for inviting me today for the panel.
So as we wrap up, I guess the question, and I appreciate John's final comments, right? So we've been sitting, we've been listening, and been all these different pieces and components. I mentioned earlier today that, you know, most jobs, when you have a good job, you like a good opportunity for professional development, and the idea is that you go there, you sit through workshops and conferences, you know, lectures and conversations, and sometimes you listen and sometimes you don't, right? Like, so I'm not trying to say you gotta come in here, you gotta be totally focused the whole time. I'm just saying be really mindful, because that's part of like that's part of what we do. And so to John's point, as we close out, like, what is it from, you know, the young people that are in this space? Like, what is professional development for you? What do you want? What would you like to see happen, so that we create something and create pathways that you will be attentive to, that you'll listen to, that you'll gain from? Because for me, professional development, sometimes they let you go and choose what you want, and then they pay for you to go there. So what is it that over the course of the summer or the course of your life, what are the things that you want to see happen? Can Stephanie should she take one of these, this one, or do you have another one? Like, what is the what, right? Like, you've been in here today, is there anything that was meaningful, and this is for everybody, right? Like, I know that a lot of times, especially for our nonprofit partners, right, like, we don't always have access to the same resources that other folks have, and maybe don't have the opportunity to engage in that way. So what is the what? And this is what I'm trying to see now. Like, what are the things that we potentially could be offering that folks would be like, oh yeah, I want that, or I want to do that. Like, how do we create that in a way that helps folks? You know, Dee's gonna do a writer's workshop tomorrow. You know, he's been talking, you know, I've been talking to him about like how do we talk to people about being self-published. Everybody thinks they want to share their story, or that they have something that can do that. What's the thing that you would want? And then as we close out, if there's anyone, you know, Stephanie will take the mic.
Can I add? I want to jump on that right quick. I'm in the process of hiring people right now. I work for the Department of Public Health. I'm a director of the Office of Anti-Racism and Equity. So I get a diverse group of people sending resumes, or resumes coming to me. And so whenever I do interviews, people always ask me, so Ms. Shepherd, you know, what do you want equity to look like? I said, no, it's about you. Because it's about integrity. It's about honesty. I don't care who you work for or where you work. One of my daughters one day had a summer job at a museum of art. And I came home, I was getting up to go to work, and I knew what time she had to go. And I said, why haven't you left? And she said, oh, my boss not there. I said, what does that mean? Your boss not there. So? Well, she's not there, so I can go whenever I want to go. I said, sweetheart, all the other people that work there is watching you. And just because the boss ain't there, you had an agreement to come to work between this time and that time. So where's your integrity? She got up, she got dressed, she went to work. Because this is a life skill you're going to take wherever you work. So as you're thinking about Director Davis's question, you know, what is it you want? Also ask, how do I show up? How do I bring the best of me to an interview when 30 other people are competing for that one job? Who do I need to tell that I don't know how to write a strong resume, or my verbal skills may not be the best, or you know, I want to be the President of the United States, so how do I get nurtured to be that? Or what about jobs that we don't even think about? I used to act in school, and I found out there's all these stage work. I have a son-in-law right now who works in Hollywood, building all the background stuff, making excellent money that people don't even think about is available to them. So open yourself up to the opportunities that are even bigger than what you can imagine for yourself. But at the end of the day, I'm looking for honesty, integrity, that you can be you, and that you're teachable. I'm done, sorry.
So you asked what is the what, Dr. Davis, I want to make sure that's the question. What is the what that we would like to see offered, or what I would like to see offered? So I sat here quietly and I was thinking, I'm like, what I would like to see is the inclusion, if this in particular was to help how we work with young people. How do we work with young people is a workshop that needs to be offered. And what I mean by that is the reality is if we're going to include young people, they need to be part of the plan. Right? They need to be a part of the culture of saying that they have value. Because to say you value children or young people is also based on action. Right? So how we go about that is literally should be a training or some kind of real dialogue. And also, when we say we want to meet people where they are, the reality is that really means something. And how do we truly meet people where they are? I could go on, but one of the most other thing that I really want to emphasize around what do I see and what I also see, because I have a group of people that are never represented in these spaces, because they're not going to come to these spaces. Because if we're talking about community, we have to go to the community. And some of us are not quite even in the community. We say we're from the community, but you know, like I tell people, like I'm from Patrol Hill. I'm a Patrol Hill, and they don't know me as Siobhan Hunter, the executive director of Stand Peace. They know me as the basketball lady, the lady who tell you to stop talking when everybody else is talking, or Mrs. Blue's granddaughter, because we're relationship based. So we should talk about how do you come into communities that are relationship based, and you want to approach it from a simulated way. We know it's not effective, but let's talk about how do we merge the gap. How do we merge that gap? And one of the most other things is in leadership development, the one thing we don't talk about is how do we balance self-care. Because self-care is the number, we only get our own self-care is when we depleted, sitting in the hospital or a leave of absence. Y'all see me walking around here with this foot. Right, that's the only time I get, let's have a self-care. And how do we accept the yes, especially when we are conditioned to believe that we're not worthy.
And I want to make Carl has his hand up, but I want to make, I want to make a distinction too, because I appreciate, and I'm of the same school of thought as Siobhan, right? When we're doing community-specific stuff, it should be in community. So I want to make a distinction about my expectation of the young people that are in here today, who are here as part of an internship opportunity, which means they're in a different space and place. And so how many of us have a job like a job that we go to that's our job year-round, that we're not just doing for the summer? And how many of us in that job, some days we do not want to go to work? How many times in that job that we do not want to go to work, we have to sit in a meeting we do not want to be in? And listen to people that we're like, what are they talking about? So part of this journey for me is the reality of work. I'm fortunate. I have one boss, right? And then I have a commission that basically oversees, but my one boss trusts me to do my work. I got some things I have to go to. Once a month I got a meeting that I have to go to that I don't have a choice. But the rest of the time I kind of choose what's on my plate, what I get to do. But there are other things that to make sure that the people that work in my office get paid, if I don't fill out certain paperwork, people don't get paid. Now, do you think people are going to be cool with me if they don't get paid? No, ma'am. So it's some things I have to do. So part of this experience is about, like, there are some things in work, there are some challenges that we have to go through that it's like, I love my job except for, right? Sometimes paperwork, sometimes meetings. I've been meetings where people have literally cussed me out. And when they finish cussing me out, I said, now thank you, is there anything else I can do for you? Why? Because that's the job. So part of this is a very different distinction from me wanting to go into community and understand how community wants to move or how they want to see things happen, right? This is a job where you actually get more freedom, you get more opportunity. I think when I was working in the nonprofit industry, right, like, I love that. You get to be with community, you get to do all of these different things, but there are still certain expectations around tracking who you talk to, right? Even for your own nonprofit, right? In order for you to get your grant money, you gotta get sign-in sheets, you gotta get I know Siobhan says that's the white supremacist culture of the, right? But there are certain things, there are certain things that we have to do. So this space is about, like, these are the mandates of a job. Sometimes you gotta go sit in, and guess what? There are some times when it's all week long, where you go for 3 to 5 days, where you sit in a room and you literally are like, bring me coffee at 4 o'clock in the afternoon so I can make it to 5. And I don't even drink coffee. So that's that one, but I do agree, and I think the question I'm asking, right, is we're also trying to learn, right? What is it? What is it that's going to transform? What is it that's going to change? What is it that's going to let you be able to say, like Miss Veronica, and not have to wait, 30 years? Or what is it, like Ms. Hernandez, Ms. Joanna, where you're going to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And we're all on different journeys and different ways of going and being. But what is it? So I'm not going to belabor it because I know y'all are ready to go, but I just want you to know, like, I wish when I was younger, or I wish even when I wasn't so much younger, I look back on my life right now, and I'm like 10, 15 years ago, if I had some of these opportunities, I'd be in a different place. I wish that when folks like D. Watkins or yesterday with Jesse Jackson, I wish when they came in the room, I said, can I get your number? Can I get your email? Can I talk to you? I wish. I'm now 50 years old trying to find a mentor. Come on. It's all the mentors the same age as me talking about, girl, please. So I'm just saying, don't blow or waste the opportunity. And I'm not just talking to the young people, I'm talking to everyone. Because the ability to heal means that you have to talk to people who have been through something that can tell you that it gets better. That can tell you, oh, wait, don't take that street. Turn left here, don't turn right. Because sometimes the best learning is from somebody else's experience. You don't always have to do it and go through it yourself.
Just said it was very powerful. I always tell the young people I work with, stay open, right? Don't ever get into a point in your life where you feel like, this is just how I am, right? Just stay open and be willing to change, be willing to open to take information, and like Director Davis said, use these experiences and these conversations and these processes that people already been through so you don't make those same mistakes.
Hi everybody, my name is Raquel. I have a nonprofit organization, Ladies in Power. I got a lot out of today from just hearing their stories. I'm from the community, a lot of people know me, and I'm professional about blah, blah. But as a person of the community, I'm super inspired by you guys just sharing your story, being so transparent, and I really enjoyed this space, being able to hear the drums. And my message to the young people is, I have a nonprofit. We are trying to reach you guys. We are trying to share our experiences, but we can't do it if you don't engage. So it's like, if it's something we're not doing, if it's something that you want, when you come to these spaces, like Dr. Davis says, sit up, speak up, be heard, because we can't help you if you don't help yourself. And that's a part of just being present, being in the moment, and saying what you need, because we're creating programs. Because when I was growing up, I didn't have anyone to teach me about credit. I did a lot of fighting in the community. No one taught me that I can go to a boxing gym and become a professional boxer. I had to learn this stuff on my own. And so my goal is to inspire you guys and to give you my story, but I also want you to know it's important to be present. It's important to speak up and say what you like, so that in these spaces we can create something for you. It's like slouching in your seat or being afraid to speak. Your voice matters, but I can't help you if you don't want us to help you. And that's my message for today. And thank you guys so much for sharing your space.
Close out with Carl. I would say you all should Google Raquel Miller if you don't know who she
What I'm going to say is like that we should help the community that is unfortunate, that the community can help, but we can't help the ones that don't want help.
John is going to pull his bingo winners, and he's got something for that. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you all for I appreciate you all. Last call. Now, what do they get, John? What do they get?
They get a $30 Target gift card.
$30 Target. $30 goes a long way in Target. Inflation is happening. It would help for glasses. Jim Woo. Oh, okay. Come on down. You're the next contestant. Give him another hand. He's still got. I didn't have my glasses on, so I didn't know. You have to do it.
Elsie Matthias.
And then, Dee, are you going to sign some books outside? Are we done? All right. So Dee is headed out. There are books on the B-side books out there, and then we'll have Blackboard Smile in the next couple of weeks. So give yourselves another round of applause. We appreciate you all sticking with us today and doing all what you're doing. I think Kathy and folks have the books out there for you. Do you want to do it in here, or you want to go outside?
Go outside.
Okay. See you tomorrow. Yeah, Siobhan.
It was good seeing you.
Good seeing you too, honey.
Well, you all have it. We was live on the panel. I'm not used to panel presentations, but this is good for me. I'm usually one asking the questions. And, we here at the San Francisco Public Library, we had youth in here talking about the power of healing. And we're just happy to be a part of it. And thank you for tuning in. See you later. No hidden gem show tonight either.